Jason was not a man who believed in destiny. He believed in hard work and planning and making his own future. So when his wrist communicator beeped loudly while he was fixing his old transport ship, he thought it was just another repair alert. But the message was strange. You have been matched. Prepare for romantic duties immediately. Jason stared at the screen, wiping the grease from his hands. Matched? Romantic duties? He laughed and shook his head. This must be a prank, he muttered, just as he was about to delete the message. The air around him shimmered. The tools on the ground rattled. A soft blue light formed into a shape. A person. Jason stumbled back, reaching for a wrench as a weapon. He blinked once, twice, trying to understand what he was seeing. Standing there, smiling with a confident smirk, was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. She wasn't human. Her skin was soft silver, almost glowing under the workshop lights. Her hair was a deep violet, flowing like liquid silk down her back. Two small, delicate horns curved just above her forehead, and her eyes, they were golden, bright, and sharp like a lion's. She crossed her arms and tilted her head, her smile growing wider. "Hello, human," she said in a voice that was smooth and musical. "I'm Liara. You've been matched with me. Your romantic duties start now." Jason stared at her, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Was this real? Was he dreaming? "I think there's been a mistake," he said finally, trying to sound calm. "I don't even know you." Liara stepped closer, her boots making a soft clicking sound on the metal floor. She reached out and gently tapped his chest with her finger. "No mistake," she said. "The stars have chosen, and you accepted." "Accepted?" Jason repeated, voice rising. "I didn't accept anything. I didn't even know I was signed up for anything." Liara raised an elegant eyebrow. She pulled out a small, glowing scroll and held it up. Strange alien letters floated on it, twisting and reshaping into English words in front of Jason's eyes. Contract of bonding human, Jason Carter. Partner, Liara of House Veltari. Status, approved and accepted. Jason rubbed his forehead. This couldn't be happening. Maybe he inhaled too many fuel fumes today. "I never signed anything," Jason insisted. Liara laughed softly, a sound like tiny bells. "Your act of saving my people 5 years ago marked you," she said. "By ancient Veltari law, you earned the right to be bonded." Jason blinked. "Saving your people? Wait, the refugees?" He remembered now. Years ago, during a terrible battle between humans and the Veltari, Jason had disobeyed orders and helped rescue a group of alien survivors. It was a small act of kindness, one he had almost forgotten. Liara's smile softened for the first time. There was warmth in her eyes. "You were the only one who helped," she said quietly. "Our traditions are old. A life debt means a bond of hearts." Jason swallowed hard. This was getting way too serious. He needed time to think. "Look, Liara," he said, trying to stay polite. "I'm just a mechanic. I'm not ready for some space romance, especially not with political rules and ancient laws." Liara gave him a mischievous look. "Running away from destiny, human?" she teased. "You'll find that I don't give up easily." Before Jason could say another word, a loud crash echoed outside the workshop. The ground trembled. Liara's smile vanished instantly. She turned towards the door, her body tense. "They're coming," she said urgently. "We have to go." Jason grabbed his wrench again. "Who's coming?" "Those who oppose our bond," Liara said, her golden eyes flashing. "They will try to stop it by force." Jason's heart pounded. This was no joke, no dream. He was truly involved in something much bigger than himself. The communicator on his wrist beeped again. "Warning. Hostile forces detected." Jason looked at Liara. She stood ready, her posture fierce yet graceful. She trusted him, a stranger, to stand by her side. He took a deep breath. He had always believed he chose his own future. Maybe it was time to prove it. "All right, Liara," he said, gripping his wrench tighter. Let's face them together. Liara's smirk returned, but this time there was a glint of something deeper. Respect. That's the spirit, human, she said. Outside, the night sky crackled with the energy of approaching enemies. And so, Jason Carter, ordinary human mechanic, stepped into a world of ancient laws, dangerous enemies, and a bond written in the stars. But deep inside he couldn't help but wonder, what had he just gotten himself into? Jason and Liara ran through the dark alleys of the old space station. Behind them, the sound of footsteps grew louder. Strange alien voices shouted in a language Jason didn't understand. "This way," Liara said sharply, grabbing his hand. Jason didn't argue. He followed her through twisting tunnels and broken metal doors. His heart was hammering, but a strange excitement buzzed in his chest. Finally, they stopped inside an abandoned control room. Dust floated in the air. Broken screens blinked weakly on the walls. Jason leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. "You want to explain what's going on?" he asked between gasps. Liara didn't answer at first. She pulled out the glowing scroll again and placed it gently on an old console. The scroll floated up, unrolling itself mid-air. It projected a 3D hologram. A beautiful scene of swirling stars, ancient temples, and strange creatures performing ceremonies. "This is the contract of bonding," Liara said seriously. "It is not just a law. It is a sacred vow, older than your Earth's oldest civilizations." Jason watched as the hologram showed two beings, one human-like, one alien, standing under a sky full of shooting stars. They touched hands, and the stars above them pulsed brightly. "In our culture," Liara continued, "saving a Veltari life is seen as a soul bond. It is not something you can erase, not something you can refuse." Jason scratched the back of his neck. "But I didn't agree to anything. I just did what was right." Liara stepped closer. Her golden eyes softened. "That is why you were chosen," she said. "Not because you were forced, because your heart acted without thinking of rewards." Jason felt his face warm up. He wasn't used to such praise, especially from a gorgeous alien girl who looked at him like he was something precious. Still, he wasn't ready to just accept all this without questions. "And what happens if I don't accept the bond now?" Jason asked carefully. The stars in the hologram darkened. The temple crumbled. The two figures in the sky were torn apart by darkness. Liara's voice dropped low. "If you reject the bond, it will be seen as an insult to the Veltari, a break of sacred trust. Our leaders will take it as an act of war." Jason groaned. "Of course, war. Just my luck." He looked at Liara. She was watching him carefully, her posture tense but proud. There was no fear in her, only certainty. She had chosen him. She believed in this bond with all her heart. Jason sighed. "I'm no hero," he said quietly. "I'm just a mechanic who happened to be in the wrong place at the right time." Liara smiled. A real smile this time, not a teasing smirk. "Maybe that's exactly what we need," she whispered. The hologram shifted again. Now it showed a new image. A human man and a Veltari woman standing together before a crowd, their hands entwined. A new star being born above them. Jason stared at it. What is that?" he asked. Liara's voice was filled with wonder. "A new bond creates a new star," she said. "A symbol of hope for both our peoples. Together we can light a new future." For a long moment, Jason said nothing. His life had always been small, fixing broken ships, scraping money for repairs, living from day to day. Now he was being offered something bigger than he ever imagined. He looked down at his rough hands, then at Liara's delicate silver fingers, waiting patiently by her side. Slowly, he reached out and touched the glowing scroll. The hologram flared bright gold, filling the room with light. Somewhere far above, in the endless black sky, a tiny new star flickered into existence. Jason closed his eyes. Maybe destiny wasn't something you chose. Maybe it was something that chose you. And sometimes, maybe that wasn't such a bad thing after all. Jason thought agreeing to touch the scroll would be the end of it. He was wrong. Very wrong. No sooner had the hologram faded than Liara stepped back, her face serious again. She pulled out a small silver device from her belt and pressed it. 3. Sharp notes echoed through the air. Jason flinched. What was that? Liara's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. The beginning, she said. Before the bond is fully accepted by my people, you must pass the tests of worthiness. Jason blinked. Tests? You didn't mention any tests? Liara smirked. Would you accept a partner who couldn't protect you? Who couldn't stand with you? When it matters. Jason opened his mouth to argue but stopped when heavy footsteps echoed down the hall outside. The metal doors shuddered. Someone was coming, or something. Liara threw him a short, glowing spear. Light, but powerful. First test, she said, stepping behind him, her voice cool as steel. Protect me. Jason barely had time to catch the weapon before the door burst open. 3 tall figures stormed in, all of them armored, wearing dark helmets that hid their faces. Their movements were sharp, fast, and clearly professional. Jason's heart leapt into his throat. He had no real training for this, but one thing he knew. He had to try. The first enemy charged, swinging a heavy baton. Jason ducked clumsily, feeling the wind rush over his head. Without thinking, he jabbed forward with the spear. The weapon pulsed with a soft blue light, sending the attacker sprawling backward. Jason looked at his hands in shock. Did I really just do that? No time to celebrate. The second attacker lunged and Jason twisted to the side, copying moves he'd seen in old action movies. It wasn't graceful, but somehow it worked. From the corner of his eye, he saw Liara, standing still, arms crossed, watching him. No help, no interference. This was his test, his alone. The third enemy moved differently, smarter, slower, testing Jason's reactions. Jason's muscles ached already. His hands were sweaty on the spear. He wasn't a fighter. He was a mechanic who knew how to fix broken engines, not break people's bones. The attacker feinted left. Jason fell for it, and pain exploded across his side as he took a hard hit. He stumbled, gasping, dropping to one knee. The enemy raised their baton high for a final blow. Jason looked up and saw Liara's golden eyes watching him, steady and calm, not judging, not worried, believing. Something inside Jason snapped into place. He wasn't here because he was strong. He wasn't here because he was fast. He was here because even when things seemed hopeless, he didn't give up. Jason gritted his teeth, grabbed the fallen spear with both hands, and swung upward with all his strength. The spear connected with the enemy's arm, sending the baton clattering across the floor. Jason scrambled up, driving the attacker backward until the armored figure finally raised both hands in surrender. Silence fell. Jason stood there, panting, bruised, and sweating, but still standing. Liara finally stepped forward. Her face was unreadable. Jason waited, unsure what to expect. Then she smiled, a real smile this time, wide and proud. You passed, she said softly. Jason sagged against the wall, half laughing, half groaning. Great, he muttered. What's next? Wrestling a dragon? Liara laughed. The sound was beautiful and bright in the dusty room. Don't worry, human, she said teasingly. The next test is much harder. Jason groaned again, but inside, a small fire had started burning, stubborn, bright, and impossible to put out. He had survived the first test. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was something more. And for the first time in a long time, Jason wondered, what else was he capable of if he dared to find out? Jason sat on the edge of a large, round platform, still sore from the fight. He thought the worst was over. He thought wrong. The doors to the grand chamber opened and dozens of alien figures entered, all dressed in flowing robes of silver and blue. In the center of the room was a shining circular stage, surrounded by floating lanterns that pulsed softly like beating hearts. Liara walked to him, wearing a long, elegant robe that shimmered as she moved. Her violet hair was braided with silver threads. "You must complete the rite of unity," she said, her voice calm but serious. "You must dance with me." Jason blinked. "Dance?" Liara nodded. "In Veltari culture, the dance of unity is sacred. It joins two souls not just in body, but in spirit. It shows trust and surrender." Jason's stomach twisted. Fighting he could manage with luck. But dancing? In front of hundreds of watching aliens? With her? "I don't even know your steps," he said nervously. Liara smiled, not mocking this. "Time but warm. Just follow me," she said. "Trust me." The music started. Strange, haunting tones from instruments Jason couldn't even recognize. The floor beneath him began to glow in soft blue patterns like flowing rivers of light. Taking a deep breath, Jason stepped onto the stage. Liara reached out her hand. Jason hesitated only for a second, then took it. Her fingers were cool and delicate, yet strong. The dance began. At first, Jason moved awkwardly. His feet stumbled, his arms were stiff. The Veltari movements were slow, flowing, almost like moving through water. Jason felt like a rusty robot trying to swim. Around them, the alien crowd watched in silence, one misstep, one fall, and Jason could embarrass Liara and destroy the fragile trust between their worlds. Liara leaned close, whispering against his ear, "Don't think. Feel." Jason closed his eyes for a second, breathing in the scent of her, like wild flowers after rain. Slowly, he stopped trying to copy her exact moves. Instead, he focused on the rhythm, the heartbeat of the music, the heartbeat of Liara, and something amazing happened. Their steps began to match. Their bodies moved as one. Jason let himself be guided by her gentle pulls, her small pushes, the pressure of her hand on his. They spun, dipped, and turned, glowing patterns blooming under their feet with every movement. Jason opened his eyes, and for a moment he forgot the crowd, forgot the risks, forgot everything but her. Liara was smiling at him, her golden eyes shining with something pure and raw. Trust, hope, maybe even affection. The music reached a high, trembling note. Liara guided Jason into a final spin, and he caught her as she twirled into his arms. They stood together in the center of the glowing floor, breathing hard but smiling. Around them, the Veltari audience began to sing, a low, beautiful hum that vibrated through the air. Jason looked into Liara's eyes and realized this wasn't just a dance, it was a promise, a vow that no matter what challenges came next, they would face them together. The music faded. Liara squeezed his hand gently. "You have passed the second test," she whispered. Jason chuckled, breathless. "What's next? Juggling fire?" Liara's smirk returned. "Not quite," she said, "but the third test will be the hardest yet." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Harder than this?" Liara leaned in close, her voice a soft tease. "You'll have to face the truth. Not about me, but about yourself." Jason's heart thudded harder. Truth? About himself? What did that mean? Before he could ask, the elders of the Veltari Council stood and began to chant, preparing for the final test. Jason swallowed, a chill creeping down his spine. He had survived the fight. He had survived the dance. But could he survive the truths hidden deep inside his own heart? Only time would tell. The grand chamber slowly emptied after the dance. Jason stood quietly near the edge of the glowing platform, his heart still pounding. Liara was speaking with the elders in a low voice, her back turned to him. He should have been proud. He had survived 2 impossible tests, but something tugged at his mind, a quiet whisper of doubt he couldn't silence. Was all this, the bond, the tests, the match, truly fate? Or something carefully planned? Jason's communicator buzzed softly on his wrist. It was an old maintenance alert, but it gave him an idea. He slipped away silently, moving through a side hallway. He needed answers. Following the signal trail, he found himself outside a small council room. The heavy doors were slightly open. Voices drifted out. Jason hesitated, then leaned closer. Inside, he heard Liara's voice, calm, confident, and saying words he wasn't supposed to hear. "Yes, I chose him," Liara was saying. It had to be him. No other human would do. "Are you certain?" an elder asked. Jason recognized the elder, an old alien with long silver hair and deep lines of wisdom on his face. Liara answered firmly. "He saved our people when no one else did," she said. "He risked his life without knowing us, without asking for anything in return." There was silence, then another voice, sharp and cold. "But does he love you, child? Or is he just fulfilling an old debt?" Jason's chest tightened painfully. Liara spoke again, her voice softer now, almost sad. "I don't know yet," she said. "At first I thought he was only a symbol, a bridge between our worlds, but now—" She paused. Jason waited, heart frozen. "Now I want him to stay because of me," she finished in a whisper. "Not because of duty, because he chooses me." The elder sighed heavily. "Feelings are dangerous in such unions. You must be prepared to lose him." Jason backed away, his mind spinning. He stumbled through the empty halls, not knowing where he was going. His heart was a mess of emotions. Shock, confusion, and something that hurt more than he expected. Betrayal. So it wasn't fate. It wasn't some cosmic bond written in the stars. Liara had chosen him. Hand-picked him like someone picking a tool from a shelf. Jason leaned against a cold wall, clenching his fists. He wasn't angry that she admired him. He was angry because he didn't know what was real anymore. Was the way she smiled at him real? Was the way she looked at him during the dance real? Or was it all part of some ancient, sacred plan? Jason closed his eyes. He remembered the way her hand had trembled slightly when she touched him. The softness in her voice when she said, "Trust me." That hadn't been fake. It couldn't have been. Jason realized something else too. Maybe Liara hadn't just chosen him because of his past. Maybe she hoped he would choose her too. For their future. Footsteps approached. Jason looked up to see Liara standing there, her face unreadable. "You heard?" she said quietly. Jason didn't answer, right away. He just nodded. They stood in silence, a heavy wall between them. Finally, Liara spoke. "I won't force you," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "You can walk away, if you want." Jason looked at her, really looked at her, not as an alien, not as a duty, not even as part of a cosmic law. He saw Liara, the girl who had risked her reputation by choosing him, the girl who had trusted him with her heart even when it wasn't required. Jason pushed off the wall and took a step forward. "You could have picked anyone," he said slowly. "Someone stronger, smarter, better." Liara smiled faintly, sadness and hope blending in her golden eyes. "I didn't want better," she said. "I wanted you." Jason's chest ached. This wasn't about fate. This was about choice. His choice. And right now, in this strange, broken world, there was one thing he knew. He didn't want to run. He wanted to stay. Not because of duty. Not because of some ancient contract. Because somehow, against all odds, he wanted her too. Jason offered his hand. Liara's fingers slipped into his. Their bond wasn't written by stars. It was being written, here and now, by them, together. The council chamber was silent. Hundreds of golden eyes stared at Jason. The walls shimmered with ancient symbols. The air was thick with expectation. Even the ground beneath his boots felt heavier. This was it. The final trial. Liara stood a few steps away from him dressed in her ceremonial robes, her face calm but her hands trembling slightly at her sides. Jason knew what was about to happen, and it scared him more than any battle. He wasn't being asked to fight. He wasn't being asked to dance. He was being asked to do something much harder, speak his true heart in front of everyone. The High Elder rose from his seat. His voice was deep and powerful, echoing around the vast chamber. "Jason Carter of Earth," the Elder announced, "you have completed the tests of strength and spirit. But a bond is not complete with deeds alone. It must be sealed with truth." Jason swallowed hard. The Elder's golden staff glowed brightly. "You must declare your true feelings to Liara of House Veltari, not as duty, not as obligation, but as yourself." Jason's throat felt dry. Could he really do this? Could he bare his heart to an entire alien race, knowing any lie would shatter everything? He glanced at Liara. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't pleading. She was simply standing there waiting, offering him the freedom to choose. Jason took a shaky breath and stepped forward. His voice shook at first, but he forced the words out. "I won't pretend I understand all your traditions," Jason said, his voice carrying across the hall. "I'm just a human, a mechanic. I didn't expect this. I never thought I'd be standing here." He looked down for a moment, then back at Liara, locking onto her golden gaze. "But when I met you, something changed." He took another step closer. "You didn't just pull me into your world," he continued. "You made me see a version of myself I didn't know existed, someone who could be more, someone who could matter." The chamber was utterly silent. "I won't lie," Jason said, his voice growing stronger. "I'm scared. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing." He reached out, his hand trembling slightly. "I choose you, Liara, not because of some ancient rule, not because of some contract, but because somewhere along the way." He hesitated, heart pounding. "I started caring about you, really caring." Jason's hand remained stretched out. The Elder waited. The entire hall waited. Then slowly, Liara stepped forward. She placed her hand in his. The chamber exploded into soft, glowing light. Thousands of tiny stars rained from the ceiling, swirling around them like blessings. The High Elder's voice rang out strong and proud. "The bond is true. Witness the joining of Earth and Veltari, not by force, not by duty, but by choice of hearts." The Veltari around them began to sing, a beautiful deep song that made the very walls vibrate with joy. Liara leaned close, her forehead resting gently against Jason's. "You have passed, human," she whispered, a tear slipping down her silver cheek. "You have proven your heart." Jason closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of her touch, the truth of her presence. He had faced enemies. He had faced doubts. He had faced himself. And now, standing here with Liara's hand in his, Jason knew. This was no longer just about saving lives or fulfilling promises. It was about building something new, something real, together. The celebrations went on for hours. Jason and Liara stood together at the center of it all, wrapped in golden lights and the warm songs of the Veltari people. Strange fruits were offered. Bright lanterns floated into the night sky, carrying wishes to the stars. Jason had never felt anything like it, not even on Earth. It wasn't just a wedding or a ceremony. It was hope. Hope for two worlds. Hope for two people who dared to believe in something bigger than fear. As the crowd slowly thinned, Liara tugged Jason's hand and led him away from the main square. They walked in silence through the silver gardens of the station, flowers glowing softly around them. Finally, they reached a quiet balcony overlooking the vastness of space. Jason leaned against the railing, staring at the endless stars. He felt a strange peace settle in his chest. Liara stood beside him, her silver hair dancing in the gentle breeze. "For us," she said, pointing to a new star shining brightly among the others. Jason smiled. "For us," he agreed. They stood there, Side by side, two different souls bound not by force, but by choice. Jason turned to her, a playful smirk on his lips. So, he teased, what exactly do these romantic duties of mine include? Liara laughed, a beautiful musical sound. You'll find out, she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Soon. Jason chuckled. Should I be worried? Liara leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Terrified, she teased. Jason laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. For a while, they simply stood there watching the stars. But deep in the shadows of the station, hidden from their sight, another figure watched them, a figure cloaked in darkness, his eyes burning with quiet hatred. He spoke into a small communicator, his voice low and cold. The human and the Veltari girl have completed the bond, he said. Phase 1 is complete. A crackling voice answered, full of menace. Good. Let them believe they are safe. Let them believe they have won. Soon, the real test will begin. The figure smiled grimly and vanished into the darkness. Back on the balcony, Jason felt a strange chill run down his spine. He shook it off, blaming the cool night air. Beside him, Liara squeezed his hand gently. Whatever comes next, she said softly, we'll face it together. Jason smiled, holding her hand tighter. Together, he whispered back. And somewhere above, the new star they had created burned brighter, as if daring the universe to try and tear them apart, because some bonds were not written in contracts, not carved by ancient laws, not born from duty or fear. Some bonds were written by hearts, and hearts, once truly joined, could survive anything, even the dark.